Picture this. You live in a concrete jungle surrounded by vast asphalt valleys with metal, glass, and concrete structures resting at their base. And as you look around for relief from these structures, it's all you have as far as your eyes can see. So, maybe you decide to go for a walk, but these vast asphalt valleys are overrun with huge metal bullets on wheels, zooming past with no regard for you whatsoever. Or maybe you want to go for a walk at the park, but you remember the nearest park near you is over 2 days away walking. So, this might sound like I'm describing a dystopian future, or maybe a scene from Fahrenheit 451, but no. This is the reality for the majority of people in my home city of Luanda, which has brought me to say, efficient cities create worse living. Now, that may sound crazy to you, but yeah, because I bet the thing that makes us all mad is that our cities aren't efficient, right? Maybe there's too much traffic on the road, or there's never enough parking, or maybe public transportation is just a mess. But that's not what I mean. What I mean is that most cities are built in a way that allow for economic efficiency, so that your houses are nearby, your jobs, malls, and you have huge roads that accommodate for you to go to your job. But in the end, you're just surrounded by a bunch of conveniently placed concrete structures. But is this the ideal way of living? Well, certainly not in my home city of Luanda. The lack of public spaces has caused a lot of our younger generation to be funneled into alcohol and drugs. So I think coming to Cape Town was an eye-opening experience for me, because it allowed me to live in a city that is majorly built around nature. I remember when I first got here, I was struggling with adapting to the huge changes. And to disconnect, I would go to a river near where I live and read a book, for example. But I'd stop and think, if I lived back in my home city, I would not have this privilege. And this moment inspired me to research what you're going to hear today. After this moment, I noticed how natural spaces improve quality of life by miles. And this is not just a personal experience of mine. Take this journal by the Environmental Health Perspectives, which found that living in greener spaces or greener cities lowers causes of mortality for a variety of diseases, such as respiratory diseases, cardiovascular diseases, and even cancer. And the University of Illinois also found that children that grow up in cities with greener spaces grow up to have a lower level of asthma related to children that grow up in city environments. And psychology also tells us that nature motivates us to exercise more. This is why people that have nature reserves exercise more than people that are in city environments. So, it's no secret that natural greenery helps livability in cities. So, why aren't all cities green? Well, this is because it creates a conflict of interests. Because green spaces provide no economic value for governments, and they have a high cost of maintenance. This means you have to water, garden, and maintain these green spaces, which end up being a liability to cities. And most poor countries will see these green open spaces and think, I can build infrastructure that will grow my economy. And let's also not forget that most cities are already built in a way that can't accommodate for any new nature because they weren't planned that way. So, is that it? Are the majority of the cities around the world just doomed to be as they are? Is there no symbiotic relationship between city and nature? Well, we know there is. Cities like Singapore, Seattle, Stockholm, and as I mentioned before, Cape Town, all do a great job of incorporating nature into their cities. And when I was researching these cities, I found 3 main trends that any city can use to create a greener and better environment. Starting from the bottom up, countries should incentivize community engagement in their cities. Cities that incorporate nature tend to have strong community involvement. Now, this could mean signing petitions so that you can preserve green spaces, planting more trees to grow greener spaces, or stopping pollution in general. And the reason community engagement is important is because it allows government and people to work together so that everyone's best interests are involved in the process. The second trend is multifunctional spaces. An example of this, green roofs. Green roofs are basically building terraces with gardens and plants on the top of them. Now, what makes them functional is that you can add a water retention mat and more technology that allows it to get stormwater and funnel it into a tank or out of the building, so that stormwater doesn't stay at the top of the building and cause maintenance problems. Now, this also means you don't have to garden the water as much because the water retention mat will allow you to feed the plants at the top of the building. Now, multifunctional spaces like this help create aesthetics like the buildings we see in Singapore, while also creating actual functional spaces so they aren't a liability and they're more self-sufficient overall. Now, the major issue for every project, funding. This brings me to the third trend. All these cities have partnerships with organizations like universities or public companies. But most importantly, non-profit organizations. This is a huge help for lower GDP countries because this means that they don't have to pay for the green spaces. Now, this could mean that the funding is locally sourced, or it could be foreign investment. But what matters is that we're building these greener spaces in these cities. Though it may seem hard, it's not impossible. Even Angola has started to add nature to its roundabouts and deserted areas. And I'm telling you this because Angola is not a high GDP country whatsoever. And if we could do it, I think other poor countries can also do it. As we saw, there are a lot of benefits that nature brings into cities. And if we remember to have community engagement, multifunctional spaces, partnerships with organizations, we can all do it one step at a time. Thank you.